Good afternoon, 5th grade. Begin working in your notebook. Remember that one strategy we can use when we have word problems is to use pictures or those thinking bars to represent your word problem. So try that for the following problem. You can pause the video and continue working when you're finished. Today we're going to focus on adding unlike fractions. This word unlike is really important. Yesterday we talked more about adding and subtracting with fractions that have the same denominator, so today we're going to focus on what to do if we have different denominators specifically. We know that this number 3 is, let's do this one. We know this is called the numerator, while the bottom number is the denominator. Just a little review for you. Some other vocab that we want to discuss today is the word multiple, and this is a product of two whole numbers. Thanks for writing this down in your notebook. Another important word is the least common multiple, and you might see this abbreviated as LCM. And this is the least number that is a multiple of each of two or more whole numbers. So for instance, if I were to do the multiples of 3, I would say 3 times 0 equals 0. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4, 3 times 5, and continue onward. I would repeat that same thing to find the multiples of 4. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8, and continue onward. Now, I'm going to circle the numbers that are the same in each of these multiples. You can see that other than the number 0, the least next common multiple would be 12. So we could say the LCM of 3 and 4 is 12. Let's try doing the same thing for 3 and 5. In your notebook right now, I want you to think about the multiples of 3. 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, and go all the way up to about 5. Did you come up with a list like this? Now do the same for 5. 5 times 1, 5 times 2, 5 times 3, 5 times 4, and continue till about 5 or so. Here's the list I came up with. Now let's see which are the same. I'm looking down my list. I see 15 and 15. So we could say the least common multiple, or the LCM, of 3 and 5 is 15. Now this is important because we need sometimes to adjust our fractions so that they have the same denominator. And to do that, we'll need to have equivalent fractions and really understand the least common multiples in order to have us do that. So we're going to use this strategy of finding the least common multiple so that we can find denominators that are the same. And then we'll be able to add fractions easily when we have similar denominators, as we found out in our previous days learning together. Let's see how this would work. Nykiria spent 2/3 of her day reading, while Jaren spent 1/5 of the day. How much time did they spend reading all together? Let's add 2/3 and 1/5. They do not have the same denominator. So let's go back to our work a few slides ago and refresh our memory. What did we find was the same multiple? 15. Okay, so let's go ahead and use 15 since we've already put in the effort to do that work. So let's rewrite this. We want 15 as the denominator for both of these fractions. So we're going to make two new fractions, or we could say equivalent fractions. And we know that when we add with like denominators, the denominator is the same. So we're going to go ahead and add in part of the answer. So right now I'm thinking 3 multiplied times what number would get me 15? From our work earlier, we know that that would be 5. If I do that to the bottom, I do it to the top. 2 multiplied by 5 is 10. Let's do the next number. 5, I need to get to 15. 5 multiplied by 2 is 10. 5 times 3, 15. Perfect. Do that to the bottom. Do that to the top. Multiply again by 3. 1 times 3 is 3. Now, 5th graders, we have the same denominator, 15. So we can really just spend time adding the numerators. 10 plus 3 is 13. So Nykiria and Jaren spent 13/15 of the day reading together. This is the final answer. Valerie used 2/3 cups of brown sugar in her cookie recipe. She used 3/6 cups of sugar. How much sugar did she use altogether? So we want to add the brown sugar and the regular sugar together. It would look something like this if we set it up. I'm noticing that 3 is a denominator in this fraction while 6 is the denominator in this fraction. 3 and 6 are not the same. So we need to find how multiples would, the multiples of 3 and 6 to find the same denominator. So multiples of 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2, 6. 3 times 3, 9. 12 and 15, and I'll stop at 5. Let's do the multiples of 6. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3, 6 times 4, and 5. Looking down my list, I see 6 is a multiple. So is 12, and there may be other numbers that come up, but 6 is the smallest. So basically, I'm going to use 6 because it will make my life easier at the very end. I could use 12, but then I might have a little bit larger fraction and have to do some simplifying in the end, which would be fine as well. For today, let's use 6 because it's the least common multiple. And again, I'm setting up my new fractions over here because 6 will be the new denominator for all 3, our 2 fractions, and it will also be part of the answer. Now 3 multiplied times what number is 6? 3 times 1, 3 times 2. Do that to the bottom, I do it to the top. 2 times 2, excuse me. That equals 4. Now 6 times what number is 6? Times 1. Do that to the bottom, do that to the top. Let's add our numerators together. 3 plus 4 is 7. 7/6 is our total. Now let's think about our answer, 7/6. How would we make one whole with a denominator of 6? You are correct. 6/6 is one whole. So we could say that we actually have more than one whole in our answer, 7/6, because 7 is larger than 6. We have a little bit more than one whole. Try this one on your own. 5/8 plus 2/7. Remember, you're going to want to find the multiples of 8 and then of 7. We'll share our work together when we meet for small group. Great job focusing today.